After I kept the poor campus belle Willow as my mistress, I treated her with overwhelming kindness. I provided for her food, clothing, and daily expenses, luxury brands and haute couture, raising her so exquisitely that even every strand of her hair looked refined. I helped get her younger brother into an aristocratic school so he could enjoy top-tier educational resources. Even when her mother fell ill and was hospitalized, hanging by a thread, I was the one who spent a fortune to save her life. However, on the eve of the wedding, I accidentally caught her childhood sweetheart, Makoto, holding her in his arms, and saying with incomparable affection, "Willow, back then, we were inseparable. If George hadn't barged in between us, we would have been together long ago. He has forced you for so many years, now you lack nothing. Why should you wrong yourself by marrying him?" Seeing that Willow was still hesitating, Makoto said with righteous indignation, "Just because you accepted his gifts, does that mean you have to be with him? You also gave him your youth. You have never owed him anything." Chapter 1. In the 4th year of keeping Willow, the poor but beautiful campus girl I had been supporting, I could say without exaggeration that I had done more for her than anyone else ever had. I pulled strings and searched across the entire country for a kidney donor, snatching her mother's life back from death's grasp. I contacted an elite private school in City A and arranged for her younger brother to enroll there. I poured in an immeasurable amount of money, investing in her startup so she could build a career of her own. But on the eve of our wedding, I unexpectedly witnessed something. Her childhood sweetheart, Makoto, was holding her tightly, his eyes red with pain. In a hoarse voice, he said, "Willow, I know you don't love George. I know you've always had me in your heart. Back then, we were so close, we were just one step away from making it official. But your mom got sick, your brother couldn't afford school, and you had no way out. That's why you agreed to be George's girlfriend. He's forced you into this for years. Now you lack nothing. Why keep forcing yourself to marry him? I can't accept him taking you away. If you really go through with this wedding, I'll jump from here today to prove my resolve with my life." From the 30th floor of an office building, even a glance downward was enough to terrify Willow's mother and her younger brother, Santino. They immediately began persuading her. "Willow, I watched Makoto grow up. I've long treated him as my future son-in-law. You can't betray his sincere feelings. Sis, can you break up with George? Makoto loves you so much, I want him to be my brother." Makoto pressed on urgently. "Say something. Willow, you clearly have the ability to leave George now. Why won't you break up with him? Why are you still marrying him? Have you fallen for him? If you have, I'll die right now." Faced with the chaos, Willow remained silent the entire time. When no answer came, Makoto completely lost control and turned as if to jump. Only then did Willow grab his hand. Her voice conflicted. "Fine, then we won't get married." Makoto's face lit up with joy. "I knew you still had feelings for me. Then I want you to run away at the wedding. Leave George Wang utterly humiliated. Consider it payback for all these years he's forced you into this." The moment he said that, everyone's expressions shifted. Seeing Willow hesitate, Makoto immediately pulled her into his arms and said softly, "Willow, you hate him too, don't you? Just promise me this one thing, and I won't do anything that'll make everyone regret it again." Coming back to their senses, Willow's mother and Santino also began persuading her. Every word they said pointed to the same idea: running away from the wedding would be best, and it would serve me right. Willow frowned deeply, lost in thought. At last, she finally gave in and agreed. Her mother and Santino instantly beamed with delight. Makoto also breathed a sigh of relief and lowered his head to kiss her cheek. With a smile, he said, "Then it's settled." I can't wait to see the look of utter despair on George Wang's face. I had witnessed everything that had just happened, but I didn't expose them. Instead, I quietly turned and walked downstairs. After returning to my car, I sat in the back seat for a long time before calling my mother. "Mom, you were right. No matter how much Willow resembles Alicia, she isn't her. I'm not going through with this wedding." My mother replied, "Alicia has been gone for so many years. You've been searching for substitutes who look like her. Keeping Willow around to ease your longing was one thing, but actually marrying her, that's unnecessary." Hearing my mother's sigh, my gaze froze. Through the car window, it seemed to drift back into the distant past. Ever since I could remember, I had known the girl next door, Alicia. We were childhood sweethearts. From innocent children to passionate teenagers, we were inseparable every single day. I had been rebellious since I was young, a troublemaker everyone found exhausting, while Alicia was a well-known elegant socialite in our circle. No matter what trouble I caused, Alicia would always speak up for me behind the scenes, shielding me from my parents' punishment, and I poured the most passionate, most sincere love of my life into her, swearing that I would marry no one but her. On Alicia's 22nd birthday, we had planned to register our marriage together. I waited at the civil affairs office from morning until night. She never came. Instead, I received the devastating news that Alicia had died in a car accident on her way there. From that day on, my world fell into complete darkness. Chapter 2. I couldn't accept that reality. Like a madman, I searched the world for traces of Alicia, a profile that looked 70% like hers, a pair of clear eyes, a gentle voice. I met countless people. As long as they carried even a faint resemblance to Alicia, I couldn't help but want to get close. Until 4 years ago, when I met Willow working part-time at a bar. The moment I saw that girl, whose figure and appearance were 90% like Alicia, I decided to keep her by my side. I investigated her family situation and used money and benefits as leverage to become her boyfriend. After we got together, I never looked for any other substitutes again. Everyone thought that the reason I settled down was because I had truly fallen in love with Willow. But only I knew that through her face, I was remembering Alicia. I remained clear-headed as I sank into the illusion I had woven for myself, almost mistaking the fake for the real. It wasn't until I witnessed that farce just now that I finally woke up. A substitute will always just be a substitute. My voice hoarse, I said. Mom, in a few days I'll come to Ireland to see you. I'm planning to stay there with you for good. After hanging up, I returned alone to the wedding house, only to find the designer had been waiting for hours with over 100 wedding dresses. Looking at those intricate white gowns custom-made for Willow, I felt no interest at all and waved my hand dismissively. There's no need to continue customizing them. The wedding is off. The next second, Willow pushed the door open, her gaze dark. What do you mean, it's off? I hadn't expected her to come back so soon, but in this relationship, I had always been the one in control, so I didn't hide anything. I calmly told her the result. No wedding. Problem. Seeing the nonchalant expression on my face, Willow thought I was just throwing a tantrum like usual. She didn't take it seriously. Taking off her coat, she said coldly, "You were the one who insisted on getting married, and now you're the one calling it off. What exactly do you want?" Glancing at the group of people sitting stiffly in the room, Willow casually pointed. This one. Following her gaze, I saw that the wedding dress she chose was exactly the one she had liked most while watching videos 2 days ago. I was a little surprised, but didn't think much of it. I simply looked at her and asked, "What were you doing today?" Without changing her expression, Willow lied. "I was busy with work." "Don't worry, I won't forget what I promised you. To sleep with you once every day." As she spoke, she began taking off her clothes, preparing to head to the bedroom with me. But for once, I pushed her away. "No need for that for now. Go sleep in the guest room." Willow's hand paused. A trace of disbelief appeared in her eyes, as if she were seeing me for the first time. "Weren't you the one who used to cling to me just to sleep with me?" I smiled faintly. "Don't you always say that forced fruit never tastes sweet?" Her gaze darkened slightly. After a moment, she put her clothes back on. "Suit yourself." With that, she turned and went upstairs without looking back. Entering the guest room, the next day, I woke up early. A servant brought me coffee and casually reported Willow's whereabouts. "Willow went out early this morning for exercise. Would you like to wait and have breakfast with her?" I shook my head. "I have to go out later." "No need to wait." After breakfast, I drove out. Once I finished handling my permanent residency procedures, I found an open-air cafe with a wide view and sat down to enjoy the scenery. After scrolling through my phone for a while, I looked up and saw Willow. She was being pulled along by Makoto into the figure shop downstairs. Makoto picked out 2 figurines from the display window, while Willow specifically asked the clerk to bring out the most expensive ones in the store. The moment the clerk saw the black card in Willow's hand, they immediately went to the storage room and brought out limited edition figurines completely different from the ones displayed in the window. Chapter 3. As expected of childhood sweethearts, she even remembered his hobbies so clearly. I stared at the 2 of them without blinking. When Makoto's collar was messy, Willow would stand on tiptoe to fix it for him. When he said he wanted to try her milk tea, she casually handed it over for him to take a sip. When he marveled at the sleek new cars in a luxury dealership, she took him inside and went through them one by one with him. Watching them stroll around like a young couple on a date, I felt as if I were seeing the real Willow for the first time. So this was what she was like in front of someone she truly liked. She wouldn't always wear that cold expression. Instead, she would smile, joke, and look at him with indulgent affection as he messed around. She wouldn't deliberately keep her distance or act indifferent to everything. She would remember his tastes and preferences, even helping him match outfits when shopping for clothes. She wouldn't say anything that killed the mood. No matter what topic he brought up, she would always pick it up smoothly, never letting the conversation fall flat. In front of Makoto, she shed that cold shell she had carefully put on and became herself again. The Willow who was full of vitality, warmth, and the boundless ability to love. And that version of her was something I would never get to see when she was with me. Only then did I truly understand. Between love and not love, there lies an unbridgeable gulf. No amount of money can ever close it. After watching them enter a cake shop, I stood up and left, heading to the mall instead. I had just picked out a suit and was about to pay when a familiar voice suddenly came from behind me. "I'll take this suit. Wrap it up." I turned around and met Makoto's openly provocative gaze. I knew Willow's childhood sweetheart was no easy person to deal with. "Calmly," I said. I saw this suit first, and it's quite expensive. You might want to look at other styles. The sales assistant glanced at Makoto's outfit and tactfully added, "Sir, I'm sorry, but the items here may be beyond your budget. If you'd like, you could check the outlet downstairs." In an instant, all eyes in the store turned toward him. Makoto's face flushed bright red. His eyes filled with humiliation and anger. "You're looking down on me. Huh, I like this one, and I'm paying for it right now." As he spoke, he took out the black card Willow had given him and threw it at the assistant. I looked at that card, then at the surrounding crowd whose mouths had fallen open in shock, and handed over my own card as well. On one side was a wealthy new customer, on the other the original interested buyer. Caught in between, the assistant looked extremely awkward. Just as she was at a loss for what to do, Willow's voice suddenly rang out, "What's going on?" Chapter 4. Seeing the situation, Makoto immediately put on a pitiful act and leaned toward Willow, starting to complain. "Willow, it's my birthday today. I just wanted to buy myself a high-end suit as a gift, but Mr. Wong happened to pick the same one. I tried to pay first, but he wouldn't let me. He even said I must be too poor to afford it." Willow's expression grew even colder. She glanced at the suit and said flatly, "You already have plenty of clothes at home. Why fight with him over this one? Besides, this suits Makoto better." Then she turned to Makoto. "If this isn't enough, pick a few more. I'll pay." Hearing that, Makoto looked like a victorious general, flaunting his triumph. He no longer fixated on that suit and instead grabbed dozens of other styles. For a moment, envious murmurs filled the store. "She's giving him so much face, she spoils him way too much. When will I get a rich girlfriend like that? Look at that guy, pretending to browse for so long but not buying anything. Are those designer clothes even real? What's with the fake rich boy act?" Hearing the whispers, I couldn't even be bothered to explain. Just as I was about to push the door open and leave, the mall's alarm suddenly blared. A crowd surged down from upstairs, screaming that there was a fire and fleeing in all directions. The entire store fell into chaos. I was shoved to the ground. Countless legs stepped on me, leaving bruises all over my body. The pain brought tears to my eyes as I tried to shield my head. When I looked up, I saw Willow holding Makoto's hand, pushing toward safety. Driven by pure survival instinct, I shouted Willow's name hoarsely again and again. She turned toward the sound. When she saw my trampled, miserable state, her pupils shrank. For a brief moment, she was about to turn back to save me, but Makoto grabbed her again. I don't know what he said, but after a moment of hesitation, Willow turned away and shielded him as they left. Watching their figures disappear into the crowd, the last bit of hope in my heart sank completely. In the cramped, suffocating space, even the air felt filthy. My body was bleeding from being trampled. Enduring the pain, I slowly crawled toward a corner. With the wall as support, I braced myself with bloodied hands and finally managed to stand. The surging crowd pushed me toward the mall exit, draining every last bit of my strength. Once I was pushed out into the plaza and confirmed safe, I collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. Not far away, a familiar and urgent voice cut through the chaos. "Makoto, wait here. Don't move around. I'm going back inside for a moment." After settling Makoto down, she turned to re-enter the mall, only to see me, battered and covered in wounds. Our eyes met once again in midair, but this time, there was nothing in my gaze, only a stillness as lifeless as stagnant water. Chapter 5. On the way home, Willow and I remained silent. After a long pause, she finally spoke in a hoarse voice, offering a brief explanation. "Today is Makoto's birthday. When he was younger, he experienced a stampede accident at school and it left him with deep psychological trauma. I didn't mean to abandon you. I planned to get him to safety first and then come back for you." After 4 years together, I had grown used to her cold words and deliberate fault-finding, so I found her forced explanation rather unfamiliar. The truth was, she ignored my cries for help simply because, in her heart, Makoto mattered more. I could understand that. Besides, I would be leaving soon anyway. None of this would matter anymore. I just nodded lightly. "Got it. You don't have to explain so much, or I might start to misunderstand and think you've actually fallen in love with me." Willow's face darkened instantly, her tone turning distant again. "I just felt like I hadn't fulfilled the responsibility of a fiancé. It has nothing to do with love. Responsibility." I let out a quiet breath. Soon, very soon, this transaction would come to an end. The responsibility weighing on her, the shackles binding my heart, all of it would soon be gone. After we got home, Willow brought over a medical kit and began treating my wounds. Perhaps afraid of hurting me, her movements were unusually gentle. This tenderness, so different from her usual behavior, surprised me. Not long after, her phone rang. Seeing it was Makoto, she immediately answered and stood up. "There have been footsteps outside your door. Lock it from the inside. Don't be scared. I'll have someone handle it." I caught a glimpse of the contact name on the screen, my eyelashes trembling slightly. After she hung up but didn't leave, instead picking up a cotton swab again, I couldn't help but speak. "Your childhood sweetheart is in danger. Aren't you going to check on him yourself?" Willow paused and said, Didn't we set rules? If we're together, whether outside or at home, I can't leave you for someone else under agreed conditions. So she was staying only because of those rules. I rubbed my temples and waved my hand. If it's that dangerous, go check on him today. Consider it a rare exception from me. In the past, even when her house flooded in the middle of the night and she wanted to go back, I wouldn't allow it. And now I was actually letting her go be with Makoto. Willow was clearly surprised. Something about me felt off to her, and she wanted an answer. Why? I replied. Aren't your mother, your brother, and that childhood sweetheart the three most important people in your life? If something really happened to them, you'd regret it for the rest of your life, wouldn't you? I'm just being kind. Whether you go or not, it's up to you. Hearing my casual tone, Willow froze for a moment. The look in her eyes grew complicated, but she didn't deny it. She quickly composed herself, grabbed her keys, and left. And once she left, she didn't come back. I didn't ask where she went. After treating my wounds, I went to rest. The next day, I packed up all my belongings and arranged for them to be shipped to Ireland. While packing, I found many items from our relationship, couple accessories I had bought, various things I had given her, and even photos I had forced her to take with me. I threw them all away. On the third day, I met a few friends at a bar. I drank a bit too much and couldn't find the private room. Staggering upstairs and downstairs several times, I suddenly heard a familiar name outside one of the rooms on the first floor. Willow, are you really planning to run away from the wedding for Makoto? We've all seen how sincerely George has treated you over the years. Are you really going to give up an entire forest for one tree? Another voice replied. George doesn't have many flaws, but his rich boy temper is too strong. If Willow marries him, won't she be completely controlled for the rest of her life? I say she should run away from the wedding, let him feel some crisis, knock down his arrogance a bit. I agree. He's so deeply in love with you, he spends money on you like it's nothing. Even went against his family and proposed. It's obvious he can't live without you. Even if you run away, he'll definitely come crawling back to apologize. When that happens, you can just take the opportunity to give him an out. After that, you won't have to treat him like some untouchable master anymore. Chapter 6. Amid the chatter, Willow sipped her drink in silence. Because she didn't speak, her friends couldn't read her thoughts and began probing one after another. Willow, what are you actually thinking? If you're really going to run away from the wedding, we're bringing cameras to record the whole show. Yeah, say something. What are you hesitating for? Don't tell me you've actually fallen for George. If that's the case, then don't run away. Through the half-open door, I saw Willow's face, cold as snow. She spoke, word by word. Like him. Someone who forced you into a relationship from the very beginning. How could you possibly like him? All these years, I've felt nothing but disgust toward George, nothing else. Hearing every single word without missing a beat, I froze where I stood. So every moment had been discussed. It didn't matter. Her suffering would soon come to an end. I smiled silently and turned away without making a sound. The dazzling bar hall was full of life. After downing a few more drinks, my vision began to blur. In my hazy state, a woman approached with a glass, trying to strike up a conversation. Perhaps I was truly drunk. Seeing her eyes, so much like Alicia's, I accepted the drink as if possessed. As she raised her glass to clink with mine, the unruly side of me, suppressed for so long, surged up. I reached out and hooked my arm with hers. I'll have a cross-cup drink with you. Will you tell me your name? Drinking is fine, but let's skip the name. What do you think, sir? I sank into those eyes, murmuring drunken nonsense. I laughed softly. You won't tell me, you're Alicia, aren't you? I blinked hard, trying to see her clearly. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Willow rushing over like she'd lost control, smashing a bottle over the woman's head. The two of them immediately got into a fight. Bottles and glasses shattered everywhere, and my hand was cut in the chaos. The pain sobered me for a brief moment. Staggering forward, I grabbed Willow and stopped her from continuing. It was me who approached her first. Why are you hitting her? The boiling anger in Willow seemed to freeze. Her gaze turned razor-sharp as she looked at me. For some reason, under that stare, I suddenly felt a little guilty. I shook my head, forcing a few reasonable explanations out of my muddled mind. Don't you think? Her eyes look a lot like yours. You don't even like me anyway. How about this? You don't come looking for me anymore, and I'll just keep someone else instead. What do you think? With every word I said, Willow's expression grew darker. She finally couldn't hold back. Grabbing me, she dragged me out of the bar. You're tired of me now, planning to use me and then throw me away. George, I'm telling you, I won't allow it. I waved my hand, answering in my usual careless tone. Weren't we just getting what we needed from each other? How is that, using and abandoning? If I can keep you, why can't I keep someone else too? That single sentence completely ignited Willow's anger. She glared at me fiercely, gritting her teeth. You dare? I frowned, irritation flashing in my eyes. What's there I wouldn't dare? You were always just Alicia's substitute. Before I could finish, a voice suddenly interrupted. Willow, I just went to the restroom. Why are you out here? Makoto's sudden appearance broke my train of thought, and gradually calmed Willow down. She suppressed the surge of emotions inside her, helped me stand, and her tone returned to calm. He's drunk. I'm taking him back. Since you're here, get in the car. With that, she tossed him the keys and helped me into the back seat. Makoto drove, but his gaze kept flickering toward the rearview mirror. How did he end up at a bar? I don't know. Hearing Willow's cold tone, Makoto's eyes shifted slightly, and he deliberately continued. I heard that before he met you, he had a lot of girlfriends and was a regular at bars. Willow, it's a good thing you're not marrying a man like that. Otherwise, who knows, after marriage, he might go right back to his old ways. Willow, who had just calmed down, became agitated again. Makoto, focus on driving. Hearing her stern tone, Makoto turned away, looking aggrieved. I'm just looking out for you. As he spoke, he turned the steering wheel, not noticing the sharp curve ahead. The next second, the car slammed straight into the mountainside. Chapter 7. At the moment the accident happened, Willow instinctively lunged forward to shield Makoto. As I forced my heavy eyelids open, that was the first thing I saw. My body slammed hard against the window. Sharp shards of glass cut into my forehead. The pain twisted my face, my entire body trembling as broken cries for help escaped my throat. Blood poured down, staining my vision red. Everything in front of me grew more and more blurred. Before I completely lost consciousness, I saw Willow helping Makoto up. The door opened, then closed. The two of them disappeared, leaving only the orange flames flickering in my fading sight. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital. I took a breath, and my head felt like it was being torn apart. The nurse patted her chest in relief while changing my bandages, muttering, "You lost so much blood, we almost couldn't save you." Your girlfriend was frantic. She had blood transferred from all over the city and even donated a lot herself. That's how your life was saved. Hearing that, I froze slightly. While I was still lost in thought, Willow walked in. She still wore that expressionless face, her tone devoid of concern. "You're awake. Do you want me to call the doctor?" Seeing her indifferent attitude, it was hard to believe she was the same person the nurse had described. I parted my dry lips, my voice hoarse. The nurse said, "You donated a lot of blood to save me." A trace of discomfort flashed across Willow's eyes before she said coldly, "If I didn't, you would have died. It's just repayment for all the money you've spent over the years. Don't overthink it." So it was to repay a debt. That made sense. I nodded. "In that case, we're even now. Let's settle everything between us and call it a clean break." The intention in my tone, to draw a clear line, made Willow feel an inexplicable unease. Looking at my weakened state, recalling what I had said drunkenly outside the bar, she bit her lip. "A clean break. I saved your life, so that repays what you've done for me. But what about the pain you've caused me all these years? How do we settle that?" I found myself understanding Willow less and less. On one hand, she wanted to run away from the wedding and completely escape my control. On the other, when I made it clear I wanted us to part on good terms, she suddenly wanted to settle accounts. I carefully went over the past 4 years in my mind. Aside from proposing the arrangement and perhaps hurting her pride whenever I gave her money, I couldn't think of any real harm I had done to her. Could it be that what she resented was me separating her from Makoto, keeping two people who loved each other apart? After thinking it through, that was the only reasonable explanation I could come up with. So after weighing my words, just as I was about to come clean and tell her I planned to cancel the wedding and set her free, Makoto walked in, looking aggrieved, and apologized. "Mr. Wong, I'm sorry. I was distracted while driving, which caused the accident. This has nothing to do with Willow. If you want to blame someone, blame me." Willow, who had been stern just a moment ago, immediately softened when she saw him. "It's not your fault. I'll take care of everything." Then she turned to look at me, her tone changing again. "Makoto only got his driver's license a few months ago. I was the one who didn't want to drink and drive, so I gave him the keys. He's injured too. If you're upset, take it out on me. Don't bully him." Watching how she instinctively protected him, I fell silent for a moment before finally asking, "When have I ever bullied him?" Chapter 8. You know exactly what you've done. After throwing out that line, Willow left with Makoto. Left alone, I went over every one of my few interactions with Makoto during these 4 years, again and again, but still couldn't figure anything out. In the end, I didn't want to waste any more energy on such trivial matters, so I stopped thinking about it. Over the next few days, Willow hired a caregiver to look after me. She would drop by occasionally, not saying much, usually just sitting for a while before leaving. I didn't mind. I focused on recovering. Sometimes, when I went for checkups and passed by the next ward, I would always see her and Makoto laughing and chatting happily. She would bring him chicken soup prepared by her mother, carefully blowing on it to cool it before handing it to him. She would worry he might get bored in the hospital, so she stayed with him, playing chess, watching movies, reminiscing about old times. She would patiently respond to everything he said and fulfill every request he made. Watching all of this quietly, for a moment, I thought I saw Alicia again. Back then, When I was hospitalized with a fracture, Alicia had also stayed by my side like this, taking care of me with the same attentiveness. I had always believed that aside from their appearance, Willow and Alicia were completely different people, but at this moment, I realized, when they loved someone, they looked exactly the same. The only difference was, Alicia loved me, and Willow loved Makoto. Only then did I truly understand what it meant. Forced love never turns sweet. With heavy thoughts, I returned to my room and fell into a deep sleep. That night, I dreamed. In the dream, Alicia was alive. She made it to the civil affairs office and married me. She wore a pure white wedding dress, and amidst endless blessings, she became my bride. The officiant held the microphone and asked if I was willing to marry Alicia. With tears streaming down my face, I said, I do. The moment the words left my mouth, the dream shattered. I woke from the illusion and immediately saw Willow's face, filled with a complicated expression. What were you dreaming about? Why do you look like this? I raised my hand and touched my face. My fingers came away damp and cool, closing my eyes, my chest rising and falling. It took me a long time to calm down before I answered hoarsely. I dreamed that I got married, to the person I love most in this life. I murmured with my eyes closed, not seeing the shock draining the color from Willow's face, and she didn't know. The bride in my dream was not her. On the day I was discharged, Willow personally drove to pick me up. Halfway through the ride, I realized we weren't heading home, so I casually asked where we were going. Her eyes flickered, and she answered vaguely, "You'll know when we get there." I didn't press further. Half an hour later, I found myself sitting in a jewelry store, staring wide-eyed at the dazzling pair of wedding rings the clerk presented. The diamonds, each as large as a pigeon's egg, left me momentarily speechless. After a long pause, I finally asked Willow, "Why are you buying such expensive wedding rings? The wedding is in 3 days. Don't we need rings?" Her tone was still indifferent, but her words stunned me. Wasn't she planning to run away from the wedding? If she wasn't even going to show up, why prepare the rings? Though I couldn't understand what she was thinking, I truly liked the rings. I wanted to burn them. For Alicia, they must be very expensive. How much? I'll transfer the money to you. Willow's previously calm expression darkened instantly after hearing my words. She stared at me for a long time before forcing out a sentence through clenched teeth. "They're just a pair of rings. I can afford them." Chapter 9. Of course I knew she could afford it, but I also knew this wedding would never happen. If she paid for the rings, then I'd have no way to keep them for myself. So after thinking it through carefully, I came up with a reasonable excuse. "You've already handled the wedding dress and the venue, haven't you? I should have some sense of involvement too. How about I pay for the rings?" "I've already paid. Don't worry about it. Just try them on and see if they fit." Willow ignored what I said. She simply lifted my hand and slipped the diamond ring onto my ring finger. The silver band fit perfectly, not too tight, not too loose, as if it had been custom-made. I raised my hand, watching the brilliant diamond gleam in my palm, a deep sense of satisfaction filling my chest. Just as I was admiring it, Willow suddenly spoke. "Your turn." I turned my head and saw her extend her slender hand, her gaze fixed. She wanted me to put the ring on her. It wasn't even the wedding ceremony. Was there really a need to make it this formal? I was surprised, and even more confused about what she meant. Hesitating, I picked up the other ring and was just about to slide it onto her finger, when she suddenly withdrew her hand to take her phone out of her pocket. She stood up to answer a call, though I couldn't hear what was being said. The sudden urgency in her steps and eyes told me something was wrong. Soon, she hung up and left with just one sentence. "There's something at the company I need to handle. Keep the rings. Have the driver take you home." I was about to agree, when out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of Makoto passing by outside. Realizing this might have something to do with him, I took the rings and quietly followed, even in dress shoes. I moved quickly, but by the time I caught up, I saw Willow and Makoto on the bridge, pulling at each other, clearly arguing. Makoto demanded, "Didn't you promise me you'd run away from the wedding? Then why are you buying wedding rings?" "Makoto, calm down. Listen to me." Willow tried to soothe him. "I don't want to hear it. You're lying to me." Unable to calm down, he violently shook free from her grasp. In a moment of impulse, he climbed over the railing and jumped into the river. Without a second of hesitation, Willow leapt after him, watching their figures disappear in an instant. I stood frozen. Was this a lover's suicide? I hurried to the riverbank, only to see Willow struggling in the water, dragging Makoto back to shore. After coughing up a mouthful of water, Makoto looked at her, soaked to the bone, her clothes clinging to her, and his eyes reddened. "Why did you save me? If I died, no one would stop you from marrying George." Seeing that he was unharmed, Willow let out a heavy breath of relief. She reached out and hugged him, gently patting his shoulder, soothing him in a soft voice. "Don't get so worked up. Listen to me, okay? I won't go back on what I promised you. It's just that George doesn't know I'm planning to run away yet. I can't let him notice anything unusual. That's why I bought the rings." Makoto's tears stopped instantly. Looking at her with teary eyes, he asked, "Really? When have I ever lied to you?" Witnessing everything with my own eyes, I finally understood. What Willow did in the jewelry store was nothing more than an act. Strangely, I didn't feel angry at being deceived, only tired. After wiping away his tears, Makoto took out a pair of rings from his pocket and held them up to Willow with hopeful eyes. "Willow, will you marry me? If you say yes, I'll believe that you won't marry George." Chapter 10. I thought Willow would be overjoyed and agree without hesitation, but she remained silent for a long time, making no move at all. Makoto quickly lost patience and began threatening suicide again. Only then did she finally nod and put on the ring he handed her. Yet when he leaned in to kiss her, she quickly turned her head away. Makoto didn't notice anything unusual and happily pulled her into his arms. Watching the two of them reconcile, I let out a silent smile. I turned and left without a word, removing the ring from my finger. After returning home, I booked a first-class ticket to Ireland for 3 days later. The airline called, and I answered, yes, the 9 a.m. flight, first class. Halfway through the call, Willow came back. She looked at me in surprise. "What first class?" I hung up and replied calmly. "Plane ticket, first class," she asked. "Did your mom agree to come back for the wedding? When is she arriving? Should we pick her up?" Seeing that she had misunderstood, I didn't explain. No need. Willow didn't ask further. She took off her coat. Looking around, she noticed that many things in the house seemed to be missing. She frowned. "Have you been having people clear out the house recently?" I nodded casually. "Yeah, since a new life is about to begin. Of course I need to throw away some useless things." Willow assumed I meant married life and didn't think much of it. She turned and went to the bathroom. In the last 2 days, she was busy with something and rarely came home. I didn't ask. The day before the wedding, I received my permanent residency permit and went to the cemetery, bringing Alicia's favorite sunflowers. "Alicia, before you passed away, the last thing you did was leave me a letter, asking me to let go of you and start a new life. But 7 years have passed, and I still haven't been able to let you go. Are you angry with me? If you are, then so be it. I've always been good at making you mad anyway. In this life, I've only ever loved you." I murmured everything in my heart, standing before her grave for a long, long time. Only when the sun began to set did Willow call, asking where I was. I gave her the cemetery address, and she said she would come pick me up. I didn't refuse. After getting into the car, Willow unexpectedly showed a bit of concern. "We're getting married tomorrow. Did you come to the cemetery today to share the good news with your family, your grandfather, or your grandmother?" I shook my head and changed the subject. "Just visiting someone. What about you? Why did you suddenly come?" Willow's hands on the steering wheel paused. After a moment, she spoke. "I came to find you. Also, I should tell you, according to our customs, I'll go back to my family home tonight and come pick you up tomorrow morning." I knew that everything she was saying now was paving the way for her to run away from the wedding, but I didn't expose her. When we arrived home, Willow stopped me before I entered. "Tomorrow you," she started to say something, then suddenly paused, as if thinking of something. "See you tomorrow." I didn't respond. I just waved and walked inside. That night, I turned on a camera and recorded a video, smiling brightly at the lens. "Dear guests, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, so I'm informing you this way. Since the bride has run away from the wedding, I've run away too. After a night's rest, the photographers arrived at 3 a.m. I'd like to rest a bit longer. You can go straight to the venue." I made an excuse and sent them away, then slept until 6. When Willow's call woke me up. "There's an issue at the venue. I need to deal with it first. Can you come to the hotel by yourself?" "Sure," I agreed casually. After hanging up, I got up slowly, washed up, had some breakfast, and changed my clothes. At 7, the wedding convoy arrived on time, but I didn't get in. Instead, I handed the rings and the camera to the driver, giving him a specific instruction. "When you get to the venue, give this video to the host and have him replace the pre-wedding video with it." Then I watched as the grand procession of cars drove away. With my suitcase in hand, I hailed a taxi and headed to the airport. After deleting all of Willow's contact information, the boarding announcement came right on cue. I took one last look at the city and smiled as I said, "Goodbye, goodbye, City A, goodbye, Willow." Chapter 11. At the wedding venue, guests were gradually taking their seats. The lavish decorations and soft, flowing music created a romantic atmosphere. Yet as Willow stared at the noisy surveillance footage in front of her, her heart felt as if it were being tightly gripped by an invisible hand. The sense of unease inside her only grew stronger. She sat in a private room at a bar not far from the venue, with Makoto and his friends beside her. Sensing something was off, Makoto asked softly, "Willow, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" She shook her head, her brows tightly furrowed. "I'm fine." "What? Getting nervous at the last minute? That doesn't sound like you. Or maybe you're imagining George standing there alone later, completely lost after you run away, and you can't help but laugh. Ha ha ha. Don't say that. I'm actually looking forward to it. I've never liked his spoiled rich boy attitude. Just because he has some money, he thinks he can control Willow however he wants." "Exactly. Willow, you've been too tolerant of him. He forced you from the very beginning. Who knows what ridiculous things he'd do if you actually married him. Listening to the teasing from her friends, Willow forced out a faint smile, but her eyes kept drifting toward the clock on the wall. There were less than 30 minutes left before the wedding, yet her heartbeat was getting faster and faster, to the point where it felt like it might burst out of her chest. Why? This strange feeling, as if she were about to lose something, made beads of sweat form at her temples. Unbidden, images of George's recent behavior surfaced in her mind. His indifference toward her, the steadily disappearing items in the house, the growing coldness in his gaze when he looked at her. What exactly was George hiding from her? And then, the words he had said drunkenly at the bar echoed again in her mind. Don't you think her eyes look a lot like yours? You don't even like me anyway. How about this? You don't come looking for me anymore, and I'll just keep someone else instead. Yours. Besides her, who else? Willow's breathing grew heavy, her chest rising and falling rapidly. The next second, she suddenly stood up, her face pale. No. I need to go check, Makoto immediately asked. Where are you going? Don't tell me you're going to the wedding. His expression changed, and he quickly grabbed her arm. Willow's brows were tightly drawn, anxiety filling her eyes. This kind of punishment is too harsh for him. I just don't want him to lose all dignity in front of everyone. After all, I still have many collaborations with the Wong Corporation. If a scandal breaks out, it could affect my company. Don't worry. After the wedding, I'll explain everything to him. You promised me. Makoto's eyes reddened instantly, his voice trembling as he tightened his grip on her. You said you wouldn't marry him. Willow, we're the ones who should be together. Look, we've already exchanged rings, haven't we? Don't go. Don't worry about him. So what if he's embarrassed? At worst, you can work with other companies. You're so capable. Why do you have to stay tied to his company? But this time, Willow looked down at him, a complicated emotion flashing in her eyes. She said, Makoto, I'm just going to end all of this. It won't change anything. With that, she forcefully shook off his hand and strode toward the door. Behind her were Makoto's shouts and her friends' attempts to stop her, but she ignored them completely. There was only one thought surging wildly in her mind. She had to go to the wedding. She had to see George. Chapter 12. The car sped toward the wedding venue, and George's image kept flashing through Willow's mind. His smiles that never reached his eyes, the way he would sometimes stare at her absent-mindedly, the name Alicia he murmured while drunk at the bar, even those moments when they were intimate, and his gaze would suddenly grow distant. All the details she had deliberately ignored now surged back like a tidal wave, making her chest feel tight. Faster, go faster, she urged the driver, the unease in her heart threatening to swallow her whole. At last, the car screeched to a stop in front of the hotel. Willow rushed into the hall, only to find it eerily silent. The guests were exchanging confused looks, and the host stood on stage, visibly awkward. Seeing Willow, the host let out a sigh of relief and quickly guided her onto the stage. What's going on? Where's George? She asked in a low voice. The host discreetly removed his microphone and replied just as quietly. Mr. Wong should be backstage right now. There are still a few minutes before his entrance. Before they could say more, the host had already put his headset back on and began following the program, trying to liven up the atmosphere. Gradually, the once quiet venue became lively again. Time passed second by second. The host successfully brought the energy of the room to its peak, especially as it came time to welcome the bride and groom. But the doors that were supposed to open for the groom remained firmly shut. For a split second, the host's smile froze. Still, he forced himself to continue loudly. Looks like the applause isn't loud enough, and our groom might be a little nervous. Let's try that again. Everyone, welcome our groom. The crowd erupted in cheers once more, but the doors in front of them did not open. The moment Willow arrived at the venue, her heartbeat had calmed slightly, but now it began racing wildly again. Ignoring the host trying to stop her, she strode forward and pulled the doors open herself. Behind her, the host scrambled to cover the situation. It seems our bride can't wait to see the groom. Then let's have the bride and groom enter together. But his words were met with nothing but silence. Everyone could see clearly. Behind the doors Willow had opened, aside from a few staff members, there was no one there. The groom had not arrived. Willow's face turned deathly pale. She staggered a few steps forward, looking outside, but George was nowhere to be seen. A terrible premonition began to rise in her chest. Just as she turned to head toward the backstage lounge, a staff member hurried over and stopped her. After hesitating for a moment, the staff member handed her a camera. Mr. Wong left this. He said you should watch it yourself. Willow took the camera with trembling hands and pressed play. On the screen, George appeared in simple casual clothes, smiling faintly at the camera. Dear guests, I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person, so I'm informing you this way, since the bride has run away from the wedding. I've run away too. Willow's pupils shrank violently. Her grip tightened so hard it seemed like she might crush the camera. Ignoring the murmurs of the guests behind her, she suddenly turned and rushed toward the backstage room. only to find it completely empty. George, she whispered his name, her heart feeling as if it were being torn apart. With trembling hands, she picked up her phone and dialed his number, but all she heard was the cold, mechanical voice. The number you have dialed is powered off. Chapter 13. The wedding is on hold. Willow threw those words at the host and rushed out of the hotel, her ears ringing. The murmurs of the guests pierced her like knives. Did the groom stand the bride up? I heard she didn't even want to get married in the first place. Well, now she just ran off. Tisk. How embarrassing. Serves her right. Young Master Wang is someone countless people wish they could cling to, and she still turned her nose up at him. If someone threw money at me like that, I'd do anything. Willow clenched her fists so tightly her knuckles turned white. It felt like a massive weight was pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. Her steps toward the parking lot grew faster and faster. There was only one thought in her mind. Find George. Ask him what he meant by all this. But just as she pulled open the car door, a familiar figure blocked her path. Willow. Makoto wore a delighted smile, spreading his arms as he instinctively tried to hug her. You really ran away from the wedding. I knew you liked me. You would never let me. Willow sidestepped his touch, cutting him off with a cold voice. Move. What's wrong with you? Her harsh tone and indifferent expression froze him in place. In just a moment, his eyes reddened. George is missing. Willow's voice was hoarse, her eyes filled with agitation. She had no energy to care about Makoto's hurt expression. I need to find him. What? Makoto's eyes widened in disbelief as he grabbed her arm. What does it matter to you if he's missing? Isn't it good that he ran away? Didn't you already say you didn't want to marry him? Willow ignored him, frowning. She shook off his hand without hesitation, opened the car door, and got in. Seeing this, Makoto immediately climbed into the passenger seat. What are you doing? I'm coming with you. He stubbornly fastened his seatbelt. I want to see what kind of game he's playing. Willow had no time to argue. She slammed on the gas, and the car shot forward. She went first to the cafe George often visited, then to the gallery, even to the bar where they first met, but he was nowhere to be found. With every place she checked, her heart sank a little deeper. Willow, what are you even looking for? Makoto finally snapped, his sharp voice cutting through the air. Isn't it better that he ran away? Didn't you promise to break up with him? Are you regretting it? Willow, don't you love me? Then why are you looking for him now? Have you fallen for him? Have you? Willow tightened her grip on the steering wheel, exhaling deeply, her voice hoarse. I just want to make sure he's okay. What could possibly happen to him? Makoto sneered. Someone like him would never let himself suffer. Maybe he's hiding somewhere laughing right now. And I think he's just playing hard to get. He doesn't actually want to run away. He just wants to see you panic while searching for him. So you'll think you can't live without him. Willow, don't fall for it. Willow said nothing. She simply drove in silence, until the car finally stopped in front of the house she once shared with George. Chapter 14. Before pushing the door open, Willow had imagined countless possibilities, but what she never expected was, she couldn't open it at all. Incorrect password. The mechanical prompt sounded again and again, her hands trembling more with each attempt, until suddenly, there was movement from inside. With a click, the door was pulled open from within. Several movers were sitting together, and in the middle of the living room were a few cardboard boxes, filled with her belongings. George's friend stood there with his arms crossed, looking at her indifferently. You're here? Your things are already packed. Take them and get out. Willow stood frozen, as if something inside her chest was shattering. After a long moment, she finally found her voice, her throat dry. What do you mean? Where's George? His gaze, laced with mockery, shifted from her to Makoto, who was standing close behind her. What do I mean? You've been dumped. Isn't that obvious enough? He's busy with his own life. Why would he stay behind to recycle trash like you? Makoto's eyes widened instantly. Furious, he stepped forward to shield Willow. What nonsense are you spouting? That bastard George has been the one clinging to Willow this whole time. If anyone got dumped, it's him. He doesn't even dare show his face. Just sends you out here. This is obviously playing hard to get. He's really a dog. Slap. A loud crack cut him off. If you don't know how to speak, then shut up. Anger flared in George's friend's eyes. Makoto's cheek immediately swelled red, and he winced in pain. You actually hit me. Willow, I was just telling the truth. Why is he targeting me? It must be George. He can't stand me. So he sent his friend to humiliate me on purpose. Almost instinctively, Willow pulled Makoto behind her, frowning slightly. I'm not going to run away from the wedding. Those were just meaningless jokes between me and my friends. Tell George to come out. I want to talk to him properly. Slap. Another sharp sound echoed. George's friend rubbed his palm, now slightly numb, and looked coldly at the two of them. You think I won't hit you just because I hit him? Someone like you, a scumbag woman like you, deserves it even more. Can't understand plain words. I told you to get out. This house already belongs to me now. George gave it to me, and he's no longer in the country. Don't act crazy here. I'm not like George. I don't care about that face of yours. Even if I ruin that face, I wouldn't care. Who do you think you are? If it weren't for the fact that you look like her, someone like you wouldn't even be qualified to stand by George's side. The pain spread rapidly across her cheek, but Willow's mind only echoed with one sentence. He's no longer in the country. What did that mean? What did it mean that he wasn't in the country? Just yesterday, they had agreed to meet today. Today was supposed to be their wedding. If George wasn't here, where had he gone? Why wouldn't he even give her a chance to explain? It was just a harmless joke with her friends. From beginning to end, she had never truly intended to run away from the wedding. And what did he mean by, if it weren't for the fact that you look like her? Who did she resemble? Every time George had stared at her absent-mindedly, was it really because he loved her? Or was he looking at someone else through her? Once that thought appeared, it refused to leave. Did George ever truly love her? Chapter 15. What are you doing? Makoto's angry shout snapped Willow out of her chaotic thoughts. The next second, his warm fingertips touched her swollen cheek. Willow, let's go. They're doing this on purpose, just trying to humiliate you. Besides, you don't even like George. This is a good chance to move out. But Willow suddenly spoke. Who do I look like? Makoto's rambling continued in her ears, but Willow stared fixedly at George's friend, her chest heaving. She asked, "What exactly do you mean by those words?" The friend let out a mocking laugh, clicking his tongue impatiently. "You really went to the same school as George? Something this simple and you can't understand? How did you even get in? George has gone abroad, and you, someone who couldn't even stay in your place as a substitute, got dumped without a second thought. Got it now?" His tone was calm, but each word was like a blade, stabbing straight into her heart. A substitute, dumped. Her eyes turned red as she suddenly kicked over one of the boxes in the middle of the living room. Everything spilled across the floor, but none of the things George had given her were there. George didn't want her anymore. How could that be? He clearly loved her so much. Willow shoved Makoto away, who had been holding her waist, and rushed into the room. The space was spotless. There wasn't a single trace left of them ever having lived there. "George, come out. The guests at the wedding are still waiting for us to go back. George." She called his name over and over again, her voice trembling more each time, until it finally carried a faint sob. Truthfully, she had always felt that George didn't seem to love her that much. So again and again, she leaned toward someone else, trying to provoke his jealousy, trying to prove that she was the one he truly loved. All these years, at the moment George proposed to her, the joy in her heart had almost been impossible to hide. She had never admitted her feelings for him, because she was afraid that once she did, he would leave her. She had already planned everything. After they got married, after they officially registered, once he could no longer leave her, she would give him all her love and attention, only to him. As for before the wedding, she had no choice. Makoto was always threatening to kill himself. She couldn't just ignore it, so she could only placate him first. But how had things ended up like this? Several movers entered the room and dragged the motionless Willow out, tossing all the things she had bought herself out in a heap. George's friend shrugged. "I've made it very clear. George is gone. If nothing unexpected happened, the plane he's on has probably already left the country by now. No one's here to watch you put on this act. Don't stay here and annoy me. Get lost." Makoto was shoved out without mercy, and the door slammed shut in front of them. "Willow, how can he treat you like this? Isn't this house supposed to be shared property between you and George? What right does he have to give it away to someone else?" "I don't care. You need to make him give the house back. This is clearly yours. George, that piece of trash." Bang. Willow's fist slammed into the wall behind Makoto. The force of it stirred the strands of hair at his temple. All his curses died in his throat. "He is my husband." Her voice was cold. "Show him some respect." Chapter 16. What did you say? Makoto's voice suddenly rose, his already pale face turning even worse. He stared at the blood seeping through Willow's fingers, breathing heavily. "Have you fallen for George? Have you?" Willow fell silent for a moment. Emotions churned in her eyes before settling into a low response. "Yes." Makoto looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. He staggered back a step, tears instantly spilling from his eyes. "Then what am I to you? What did you take me for? You said you loved me. You even exchanged rings with me. You promised you'd run away from the wedding. You said you didn't love him. How can you treat me like this now? That was just to deceive you. You kept threatening suicide. I couldn't just watch you die." Willow's voice was hoarse. The pain in her knuckles made her even more clear-headed. "The ring, you forced it on me. I never intended to run away from the wedding. The person I've always liked is. That's a lie." Makoto screamed hysterically, cutting her off. Tears blurred his vision as he muttered almost madly. "You said you hated him. You said he forced you. You don't love him at all. Stop joking with me. Willow, you don't love him. I was wrong." Willow closed her eyes briefly, then spoke with firm resolve. "I love him." Those words were like a blade, stabbing straight into Makoto's heart. His whole body trembled. Suddenly, he turned and rushed toward the window, yanking it open as if to jump. "Fine. If you don't want me anymore, then I'll just die. My life has no meaning anymore. Willow, I can't accept you loving someone else. How can you marry another man? Willow's pupils shrank as she stepped forward instinctively. Makoto, don't do anything reckless. Standing by the window, tears streaming down his face, he turned back to look at her. Willow, can you really bear to watch me die? If you still insist that you love George, that you want to marry him, then I'll jump right now. Willow clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. She knew he was threatening her, but she didn't dare gamble. In the end, she took a deep breath and gave in. Come down first. We'll talk when we get back. A flash of triumph passed through Makoto's eyes. The corners of his lips even curved into a smile. So you agree to marry me? Willow didn't answer. She simply reached out, pulled him down, and said calmly, let's go. I'll take you home. Makoto assumed she had compromised. He wiped his tears hastily and obediently followed her into the car. The scenery outside sped by. He stared intently at the woman in the driver's seat, talking nonstop about how much he loved her, even though Willow kept a cold face and didn't respond with a single word. But when the car finally stopped in front of his house, he realized something was wrong. Willow, this isn't the way to your place. Willow unbuckled her seatbelt expressionlessly, got out, and opened the back door. Get out. Panic filled Makoto. He clung to the seat, refusing to move. What are you doing? Ignoring his struggle, Willow forcibly dragged him out of the car and pressed the doorbell of the Ito household. Makoto Ito's parents quickly opened the door. Seeing their son with red eyes and Willow's cold expression, they froze in confusion. Willow, what is this? Uncle, aunt. Willow's voice was icy as she pushed Makoto toward them. From now on, I won't be responsible for him anymore. If he threatens suicide again, please keep a closer eye on him. Chapter 17. Willow, you can't do this to me. As Willow turned and walked away, Makoto's eyes widened in disbelief. He struggled to chase after her, but his parents held him back tightly. He broke down, crying and shouting, Willow, you promised you'd marry me. You can't leave. We're meant to be together. Willow paused for a moment but didn't turn around. She simply threw out one sentence. When did I ever promise you that? Makoto, I've already done more than enough for you. With that, she got into the car, stepped on the gas, and drove off without looking back. The car sped through the darkening night. There was only one thought in Willow's mind. Find George. Explain everything to him. She began calling their mutual friends, her voice hoarse as she repeatedly asked about George's whereabouts. George hadn't gone out of his way to hide his location. Almost everyone on the other end of the phone knew he had gone to Ireland. But as for his exact address, no one knew. The only person who might know was the friend now living in the house she once shared with George. The villa security system hadn't yet updated the license plates, so Willow could still freely enter the residential area. The car stopped once more at the door. As she pressed the doorbell, her palms were damp with sweat. When the door opened, the friend was still on a phone call. Seeing it was her, his expression turned cold. Auntie, something came up here. I'll hang up for now. When he arrives, tell him to call me back. Just as Willow tried to step forward and grab the phone, he hung up with a click. When he looked at her again, his eyes were full of disgust. What are you here for this time? Willow stared at his phone, her heart aching. You were talking to his mother, weren't you? Call her again. Let me speak to her. Let her talk to George. Convince him. The friend's expression grew colder. He took a step back and stuffed the phone into his pocket. What does that have to do with you? Don't tell me you actually think that Auntie George talks about truly likes you. Do you know why you never had her contact information? Because she never approved of you from the very beginning. She never even took you seriously. Willow's breathing quickened. Her fingers gripped the doorframe tightly, her knuckles turning white as her voice broke. Where exactly did George go in Ireland? You must know the address, right? Tell me where he is. The friend let out a cold laugh. Smack. With a loud crack, his hand struck her face, knocking her head to the side. I've wanted to do that for a long time, but George always cared too much about that face of yours. 4 years. I thought you were different from the others to him. He even wanted to marry you. And what did you do? What did George ever do to wrong you? He used every means to lift you up, treated your family without limits, and you wanted to run away from the wedding to humiliate him, even abandoning him again and again in dangerous situations without a second thought. Luckily, he wasn't seriously hurt. Otherwise, not just his mother, even I wouldn't let you off. Get lost. Don't ever show up in front of us again. With that, he shoved Willow aside and slammed the door shut. At that moment, it felt as if all of Willow's strength had been drained away. She staggered and collapsed onto the ground. George, he's lying to me, right? How could you be so heartless? George, how could you be so heartless? Chapter 18. Willow sat in the car, her phone screen glowing as her fingers swiped through the files her assistant had sent, page by page. In the photos, Alicia wore a simple white dress, standing under the sunlight with a gentle smile, her eyes soft and warm. That face was almost 90% identical to hers. No, it would be more accurate to say that her face was 90% identical to Alicia's. Her heart felt as if an invisible hand had clenched it tightly, the pain so intense it nearly suffocated her. With trembling fingers, she scrolled down and saw more photos of George and Alicia together. They were holding hands and laughing in an amusement park. She had fallen asleep leaning on his shoulder. When he looked down at her, the tenderness in his eyes seemed ready to overflow. He turned back at her with a playful grin, his gaze full of love, and the last photo was Alicia's memorial portrait, a young woman of 22, forever frozen in the most beautiful years of her life, and George had spent 7 years in this world, desperately searching for her shadow. Willow stared at that photo, then suddenly let out a low laugh. Her voice was hoarse, sounding like self-mockery, yet also like despair. So, I really am just a substitute, she murmured. No. I don't even qualify as a substitute. She was nothing more than a tool George used to numb himself. The love she thought she had, the tenderness he showed, his indulgence, even his possessiveness, none of it had ever been meant for her. When he looked at her, the person in his eyes had always been Alicia. The phone slipped from her hand and landed on the seat with a dull thud. Willow leaned back against the seat, closing her eyes. Countless memories flashed through her mind. The moment George first saw her working part-time in a bar, the brief days in his eyes, the way he always gently traced her brows while she slept, as if confirming something. When passion ran deep, the way he looked at her with emotion. Yet the name his lips formed was never hers. Even in the video of him running away from the wedding, when he said so casually, "Since the bride ran away, I'll run away too," he simply didn't care. To him, her actions were nothing but childish, because he had never truly placed her in his heart. Willow suddenly opened her eyes and slammed her fist against the steering wheel. The horn blared sharply. "George, how dare you? How could you? How could you treat me like this?" Her voice was low and hoarse, squeezed out from deep within her throat, carrying pain suppressed to the extreme. But in the next second, she let her hand fall weakly. What right did she have to question him? This relationship had been a transaction from the very beginning. He gave her money, resources, and status, and she was merely a replacement he used to remember someone else. He had never once said he loved her. He had simply allowed her to take what she wanted. She had no grounds to hate him. Slowly, Willow picked up her phone and dialed her assistant again. "Book me a ticket to Ireland," she said. "Ireland." The assistant paused. "But Mr. Wong's exact location isn't clear. And the company? Hand everything at the company over to the vice president." Willow's voice was terrifyingly calm. "I'm going to Ireland. Even if I have to search the entire country, I will find him." After hanging up, she started the car and drove toward the airport. Outside the window, the night was heavy, the streetlights blurring into hazy halos. She knew she had gone mad. Even after learning the truth, even knowing that George had never loved her, she still wanted to find him. Even if, after seeing him, all she could ask was, "In these 4 years, was there ever a single moment when you truly looked at me?" Chapter 19. Willow had just passed through airport security when her phone screen suddenly lit up. The caller ID showed her younger brother, Santino. She frowned but still answered the call. On the other end, Santino's voice was panicked and helpless. "Sis, Mom suddenly fell ill and was rushed to the hospital. The doctor says it's very serious, come quickly." Her fingers tightened abruptly, her heart sinking hard. "Which hospital?" she asked urgently. "City Central Hospital, 3rd floor, emergency ward." Willow hung up and immediately turned around, rushing out of the airport. Her footsteps echoed sharply through the quiet hospital corridor. She frowned, the smell of disinfectant lingering in the air, stirring an uneasy feeling deep in her chest. She quickened her pace toward the emergency room, only to be stopped by a figure at the corner. Smack! A loud slap landed hard across her face. Makoto's mother stood there, her eyes red, her finger trembling as she pointed at Willow. "Willow, if anything happens to my son, I will never let you go." Willow's cheek burned with pain, but she had no time to care. Taking a deep breath, she suppressed the anger rising in her chest before asking, "Where's my mom?" "You still remember to ask about your mom?" Makoto's mother's voice was sharp, her trembling hand no longer striking. "She's in the ward right now, with Makoto." Willow's pupils shrank. She shoved past her and rushed toward the ward. The moment she pushed the door open, she saw her mother sitting by the bedside, and lying on the bed was Makoto, his face pale. His wrist was wrapped in thick bandages, his eyes closed, as if he were asleep. "Mom," Willow's voice was hoarse, her hurried steps coming to an abrupt halt. "You're okay." Willow's mother stood up, her face dark. "I'm fine, but Makoto isn't." She strode over and slapped Willow again. "You unfilial daughter. Makoto grew up with you and has always been devoted to you, and yet for the sake of that George, you drove him to suicide." Willow's head snapped to the side, blood seeping from the corner of her lips. The pain left her motionless for a long moment, her gaze growing colder. "Did you have Santino lie to me to get me back?" she asked. Willow's mother frowned. "So what if I did? If I hadn't said that, would you have come back?" She grabbed Willow's arm, her voice lowered but laced with undeniable threat. Makoto is still being treated. The doctor said he lost too much blood, he almost died. If he wakes up and doesn't see you, what if he tries to kill himself again? We had already agreed before. What exactly did you do yesterday to push such a good young man into suicide? Willow took 2 steps back, her hollow gaze falling on her mother's face. So, what do you want me to do? She asked. Marry him. Her mother twisted her arm hard, furious at her stubbornness. Makoto has been the son-in-law I chose since he was a child. You must marry him. I've watched him grow up. You two were so good together before, weren't you? But Willow stared at her, enunciating each word clearly. The one I love is George. Smack. Another slap. Willow's mother trembled with rage. George? He used to humiliate us with money, always acting superior. Who knows what he'll do to you after you marry him? Mom, I was wrong before. He's really a good person. The one I've always loved is him. As for Makoto, I've only ever treated him as a younger brother. Have you lost your mind? For a man like that, you keep defying me. She suddenly grabbed a fruit knife from the table and pressed it against her own wrist, her voice shaking. Willow, if you don't agree to marry Makoto today, I'll die with him. Anyway, your head is already filled with that scumbag George. Willow froze completely. The ward fell into dead silence. After a long while, she slowly closed her eyes, her voice hoarse. Fine. Only then did her mother lower the knife, letting out a breath of relief, turning to Makoto's mother with a reassuring smile. Don't worry. Once Makoto wakes up, we'll discuss the wedding. Makoto's mother wiped her tears and nodded repeatedly. Willow stood there, like an empty shell, her soul completely hollowed out. Chapter 20. When Makoto woke up, his eyelashes trembled slightly before he slowly opened his eyes. The harsh white hospital lights made him squint instinctively. Through his blurred vision, he saw Willow standing by the bed, her expression cold. Willow, his voice was weak, tinged with sobs as tears instantly welled up. Choking, he said, Am I dreaming? You're really here. Willow's mother immediately stepped forward and took his hand, her voice full of concern. Makoto, you're finally awake. You scared me to death. Don't ever do something so foolish again. You'll always be the son-in-law I've chosen, and Willow is definitely willing to marry you. But Makoto only stared fixedly at Willow, trembling as he reached out his hand. Willow, are you really willing to marry me? Really? Willow simply nodded expressionlessly. That small gesture made Makoto burst into tears of joy. He suddenly sat up, ignoring the wound on his wrist, and wrapped his arms tightly around her waist. I knew it. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. His embrace was too forceful, his nails almost digging into Willow's flesh, his voice laced with an unhealthy obsession. Willow, you're mine. You'll always be mine. You can only stay by my side forever. Willow's body stiffened slightly, her brows knitting almost imperceptibly. When Makoto was finally discharged, Willow took him to a psychological clinic under the pretense of visiting as friends. She said, Makoto, a friend of mine just opened this wellness center. Let's go get a simple checkup to support his work. Her tone was calm, but her eyes carefully observed his reaction. Makoto stayed close behind her, holding her hand tightly and unwilling to let go. He showed no dissatisfaction and nodded earnestly. As long as Willow was with him and asked him to do it, he was willing to do anything. 2 hours later, Willow stared intently at the evaluation report, her brows tightly furrowed. Severe paranoid personality disorder, accompanied by symptoms of depression and anxiety, the doctor said. The patient has a strong desire for possession and control, and may develop pathological fixation on a specific person. While Makoto was in the restroom, the doctor pushed up his glasses and spoke quickly. If this wasn't noticed before, it's likely that a specific person once gave him preferential treatment unlike anyone else. Now that attention may have been withdrawn or shifted to someone else, causing his condition to worsen suddenly. However, treatment requires the patient's cooperation. Otherwise, it's very difficult to see improvement. Willow silently accepted the diagnosis, folded it, and slipped it into her pocket. But as she pushed open the door, she met Makoto's reddened eyes. Willow, Makoto's voice trembled, the corners of his eyes crimson. You brought me here. Do you think I'm sick? Before Willow could respond, Makoto suddenly lunged forward and grabbed her arm, tears streaming down his face. I'm not sick. I just love you too much. You can't reject me because of this. Was it George who told you to do this? Is he still contacting you? You still can't let him go, can you? Makoto, calm down. Willow tried to pry his fingers loose, but it only triggered a more hysterical outburst from him. I won't allow you to leave me. If you dare to go, I'll kill myself. The commotion in the consultation room drew in doctors and nurses. It took several people working together to barely pull Makoto away. He was pinned to a chair and injected with a sedative. Even as his consciousness began to fade, his eyes remained locked on Willow as he muttered, You're mine. Willow, you can't leave me. Watching his eyes slowly close, Willow's hand hanging at her side trembled slightly. Chapter 21. The night air in Ireland carried a faint chill of moisture. As I walked out of the airport, I rubbed my temples wearily. Before my eyes had fully adjusted to the dim lighting, I heard a familiar voice. "George, over here." My mother stood beside a black sedan, waving at me. Next to her stood a tall, slender young woman, dressed in a fitted dress that made her stand out in the night. "Mom." I walked over quickly and was pulled into a hug. "Have you lost weight?" My mother touched my face with concern, then turned and gestured toward the woman beside her. "This is Anna, my executive assistant. She's been with me since I came to Ireland." The woman named Anna nodded slightly, a perfectly measured smile curving her lips. "Mr. Wong, nice to meet you." I instinctively took a second glance at her. She had a pair of beautiful eyes, gentle and calm, as if they could hold everything. "She's very capable and extremely attentive." My mother pulled me toward the car, then glanced at Anna again. "When I was expanding the business here, I relied on her a lot. Now that you're here, it's time for me to take a break. I'm planning to hand over the company here in Ireland to you." "Don't worry, Anna will assist you." I nodded, catching a glimpse of Anna quietly placing my luggage into the trunk. The car drove into the night. I leaned against the window, looking at the unfamiliar streets of Dublin. This place was completely different from City A. There were no towering skyscrapers pressing down on you, no suffocating memories, and no traces of those once joyful times. "Tired?" My mother sighed softly. "The house is all set. You should get some proper rest. George, don't stay trapped in the past." My nose stung. I closed my eyes and gave a soft hum in response. The villa was located in the suburbs, quiet and secluded. As Anna carried the luggage into the living room, my mother glanced at the clock on the wall. "It's already so late. Don't go back tonight. Just stay here and rest." Anna paused mid-motion, placing down the last piece of luggage, hesitating slightly. "That wouldn't be appropriate. I wouldn't want to impose." "What's there to impose?" My mother waved her hand and gestured casually at the spacious villa. "There are plenty of empty rooms." "George, what do you think?" Caught off guard, I snapped back to attention and happened to meet Anna's gaze. Thinking about how they had come to pick me up so late, I pressed my lips together, feeling a bit apologetic. "Stay, it's already late. I'll give you a day off tomorrow." Anna's room was ultimately arranged at the end of the second-floor corridor. When I came out after taking a shower, I happened to see her walking out of the kitchen with a glass of water. "Do you need help?" Seeing me standing by the stairs, Anna stopped. Under the night light, her outline was softened by a warm glow, losing some of the distance she carried during the day. Without thinking, I studied her carefully. There was not the slightest resemblance between this woman and Alicia. I shook my head and forced a faint smile. "No, I was just going to get some water." Anna, however, placed the glass in my hand. "I just poured it. I haven't drunk from it. Tomorrow, I'll organize the company materials here and give them to you. Good night, Mr. Wong." After saying that, Anna nodded politely and turned to leave. Even after her figure disappeared at the end of the corridor, I remained standing there. In truth, I knew my mother was trying to bring the two of us together, which was why she suggested that Anna stay the night. I had told myself over and over again that I shouldn't keep living in the past that belonged to Alicia, but I simply couldn't truly forget. Chapter 22. Mornings in Ireland always carried a thin layer of mist. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the office, holding a cup of black coffee. Outside, the streets of Dublin were slowly waking up. Pedestrians hurried along, completely unrelated to me. My phone vibrated, and messages from a friend began popping up nonstop. "George, I seriously can't take it anymore. Ever since you left, Willow has gone crazy. She camps outside your house every day, insisting on finding out your address in Ireland. Is she insane? When you treated her so well, she was always siding with that childhood friend of hers. Now that you've left and don't want her anymore, it's like she suddenly had an epiphany and realized how important you are. Who does she think she is? The heroine of some chasing her husband to the crematorium drama? Does she think saying a few regretful words will win you back? And that Makoto is even worse, seeing that she still misses you. He actually slit his wrist to force her into marrying him. Everyone in the circle is laughing now, saying Willow got what she deserved, ignoring a gold mine just to pick up a rotten leaf. And her mom and brother aren't any better. You treated them so well, yet they still think Willow should be with Makoto. Honestly, I agree now. Let them be stuck together and stop dragging you into their mess. More and more messages followed, all filled with insults toward Willow. My finger paused briefly on the screen. When another message from Willow came in, I felt nothing at all. I didn't even know if, during the years we were together, there had ever been a moment when I truly loved her. Perhaps, over time, I had considered spending my life with her. That was why I proposed. But each time she hurt me, whatever little affection had just begun to build up inside me vanished completely. I moved my fingers and replied casually, "It's all in the past." Then I stopped paying attention to my friend's ongoing complaints about Willow's miserable situation. I set my phone down and turned to the mountain of documents piled on my desk. The business of the Ireland branch was more complicated than I had expected. Although Anna was highly capable, the handover process was still heavy. During this period, I worked almost every night until late, even dreaming about handling reports. Actually, This was good. At least I had no time to think about Alicia, and no energy to deal with the chaos back home. A soft knock came at the office door. Anna walked in with a stack of documents. Mr. Wong, this is last week's financial report. It needs your review. I took the documents, my fingers accidentally brushing against hers. Anna paused slightly, then naturally withdrew her hand and stood aside, waiting. I lowered my head to flip through the report, but suddenly spoke without warning. Anna, have you ever been in a relationship? The question was so abrupt that even I was momentarily stunned. Anna simply lifted her gaze and looked at me calmly. No. Why? I haven't met the right person. Her answer was simple, a faint curve forming at the corner of her lips. I said nothing more and continued working through the documents, as if the conversation had been nothing more than casual chatter. Anna didn't speak again either, just stood there quietly. Sunlight streamed in through the window, falling on my shoulders and outlining a clear silhouette. When I finished reviewing the last document, she spoke again. There's a business reception tonight. The organizers specifically invited you. Would you like to decline? No, I'll go. Chapter 23. Business receptions abroad weren't all that different from those back home. Elegant attire, dazzling appearances, and glasses clinking in constant exchange. Holding a glass of champagne, I stood in a corner, watching the unfamiliar faces around me. No one here knew my past. All they knew was that I was the sole heir of the Wong family. The way they looked at me held only respect, no pity, no gossip. Mr. Wong. Anna appeared beside me at some point, holding a glass of honey water. Drink less alcohol. I took the glass, my fingertips brushing against its cool surface. Why aren't you socializing with the others? I asked. My job is to stay by your side. She replied as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Wherever you go, I follow. A faint smile curved my lips. There's no need. You can leave early today. But Anna looked at me steadily and suddenly said, then may I ask you a question? Go ahead. Do you regret coming to Ireland? I froze. For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. Regret. Leaving the place filled with memories. Leaving behind those tangled people and events, even possibly never having the chance in this lifetime to visit her grave again. No regrets. After a long pause, I finally heard my own voice. Anna nodded and didn't press further. By the time the reception ended, the night had grown deeper. I had drunk quite a bit and felt slightly intoxicated. Anna followed behind me, watching my unsteady steps. Just as she was about to step forward to support me, I suddenly stopped. Willow. My confusion made Anna lift her gaze, only to see Willow standing at the hotel entrance, staring at the two of us. George. Willow's eyes reddened as she hurried forward, grabbing my arm. Her voice trembled. I finally found you. I heard from a friend that there was a business reception in Ireland. I guessed you would be here, so I've been waiting at the entrance. Luckily I didn't give up. The woman in front of me kept rambling about how much she missed me, but in my drunken haze, all I felt was a pounding headache. I instinctively shook off her hand. Anna quickly steadied me, her cold gaze falling on Willow. I'm sorry, but Mr. Wong doesn't seem interested in speaking with you. Please don't touch him without permission. It's very inappropriate. He's my fiancé. Who do you think you are to lecture me about manners? Willow had already been irritated after being shaken off, and Anna's words only made her chest heave with anger. Get lost. I finally found George. You stay away from him. The commotion cleared my foggy mind slightly. My gaze settled on Willow, my expression devoid of emotion as I spoke calmly. We were never engaged, and we will never get married. Willow, if I remember correctly, you've already agreed to marry Makoto, haven't you? Does he know you came to Ireland this time? Those two sentences froze Willow in place. Her lips trembled as she stammered after a long pause. No, it's not like that. He forced me with suicide. I just agreed as a temporary measure. The only person I've ever wanted to marry is you. George, things back then weren't what you think. I can explain everything. Chapter 24. At that time, Makoto kept threatening suicide. If I hadn't pretended to agree to him, that would have been a real human life at stake. And besides, my family has always. But George, come back with me. This time, I won't consider them anymore. The only person I love is you. I have to be with you. They'll understand me. The cool night wind carried Willow's words as they crashed against my senses, sobering me almost instantly. I looked at her panicked expression, a mocking smile curling at my lips. Willow, you've always known, haven't you? My voice was light, but sharp like a blade. I'm talking about how Makoto's so-called suicide attempts back then were all an act. Willow's pupils shrank violently, her lips trembling. No, that's not true. He really. I cut her off. What came after is a different matter. It was because you chose to indulge him again and again that his condition became more and more twisted. I raised a hand to straighten my clothes, which had been ruffled by the wind, my tone eerily calm. Just like how you knew I only treated you as a substitute, yet still chose to accept my money, my resources, everything I gave you. And now that you've come back, isn't it because of those things? Willow's face turned deathly pale. She staggered forward a step, her voice hoarse. That's not true. George, the one I love has always been you. From beginning to end. I'm not here for those things. The money you supported me with back then, I can pay it all back now. Love. I let out a soft laugh. Willow, you don't even understand what love is. And besides, do you think the resources of the Wang family can be exchanged with ordinary money? Most of Wang Group's business has already shifted to Ireland. I won't be going back home anytime soon. Someone else will handle things there. You don't need to come looking for me, and I won't recklessly hand Wang Group projects over to you anymore. I turned to look at the distant flickering lights. My voice so soft it almost sounded like I was speaking to myself. Alicia would never have treated me this way for another man. I was the one who was wrong. That's why I won't take back what I gave you back then. That sentence hit Willow like a heavy blow. So what? Willow suddenly laughed, but tears streamed down her face. Her voice choked. So now you regret it? You think I'm not even qualified to be a substitute? All these years, you've always been like this, always acting like you never loved me. I was the one standing by your side, yet you were always using me to remember another woman. I raised a hand to stop her. That's why I've woken up. I looked at her quietly, as if she were a stranger. Alicia is already dead, and you will never be her. I think I've made myself clear. Between us, it ends here. No, don't. I don't mind being a substitute. Look at me. George, look at my face. I look so much like her. Look at me. Willow suddenly grabbed my wrist. George, can you really be this heartless? For years, the 4 years we spent together, did they mean nothing to you? Her fingers were ice cold, gripping my clothes tightly. Anna immediately stepped forward and grabbed Willow's wrist. Let go. In the instant the two women confronted each other, I gently pried Willow's hand away. Willow, I rubbed my aching temples, my tone calm. Do you know? In these 4 years, the only thing I regret is mistaking you for her. That light, almost casual sentence completely shattered Willow. She stood there in a daze, watching as I turned and walked toward the hotel lobby without looking back. Anna following closely behind. The night wind lifted the hem of my coat, and that figure gradually disappeared behind the revolving door, just as if I had never existed in her world. Chapter 25. The moon hung high in the sky as Willow followed all the way, finally stopping her car in front of the villa. She watched Anna support me as we walked inside. Yet Anna never came back out. The villa remained brightly lit, but Willow didn't have the courage to walk up and ring the doorbell. The curtains of the master bedroom upstairs were drawn. Faintly, 2 figures could be seen moving inside. Soon, the lights went out, and the villa fell into a dead silence and darkness. Willow's hands, hanging at her sides, clenched tightly. Her sharp nails dug into her palms, breaking the skin. Yet she felt nothing. Who was that woman? She didn't resemble Alicia at all. Then why would George allow her to stay by his side? Clearly, she was the one who resembled Alicia the most. As long as she could remain by George's side, as long as he could change his mind, she would do anything. Willow's thoughts were in complete chaos. Her eyes were bloodshot, yet she didn't dare step forward. It felt as if she had already lost the right to question George. Those words she once said, that George had been obsessively clinging to her, now felt like slap after slap across her own face. She sat outside the villa the entire night, until the next morning, when the villa door opened. Anna stepped out, still wearing the same outfit from yesterday. Her slightly open collar revealed a faint pink mark, suggestive and intimate. After tossing the trash into the bin by the door, she noticed Willow's car, a hint of surprise flashing in her eyes. Is there something else? The woman's tone was calm, her eyes beneath loose strands of hair filled with casual indifference. Willow pushed open the car door. Her bloodshot eyes locked onto Anna as she demanded, "Why are you staying at George's house? What's your relationship with him? Do you even know that there's someone he loves deeply in his heart? Someone like you, there's no way he'd ever be interested." Anger nearly consumed her. After those words, Willow suddenly rushed forward and swung a slap toward Anna's face. But she had spent the entire night without rest and had no strength left. Anna caught the slap effortlessly, holding her in place. Anna leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Of course, it was because Auntie and Mr. Wang insisted that I stay, so I spent the night here. I'm well aware that he has someone he loves deeply, but as far as I know, that person isn't you, Miss Willow." With that, she shoved Willow away, though her lips held a faint smile. Her eyes were cold. "You're just a substitute. What right do you have to question me?" Enraged by those few words, Willow's eyes turned crimson as she raised her hand again to strike. But this time, Anna didn't dodge. She merely tilted her head slightly. Willow's hand brushed past her face, and Anna staggered back, her body slamming heavily against the wall. At that moment, the door was suddenly pulled open. I stood there, expressionless, looking at Willow, who was still breathing heavily. The moment her eyes met mine, I raised my hand and struck her without hesitation. The sharp sound echoed as Willow staggered back. Her hands trembled at her sides, tears gathering in her bloodshot eyes. "George." I didn't even touch her. "You won't even listen to my explanation, and you hit me for her." Chapter 26. I said coldly, "Back then, didn't you also have no evidence, yet firmly believe that I had bullied Makoto?" That emotionless sentence froze Willow in place. The men who used to smile at her so gently in her memories now looked at her with nothing but unfamiliar indifference. I supported Anna and looked down at Willow, whose body was trembling. Why are you always so self-righteous? Back then, you defended Makoto without knowing the full story. I did nothing, yet you accused me of being vicious. As for the harm you caused me, you brushed it off by saying he was still young. And now, haven't I made myself clear enough yesterday? Willow, who exactly is the one clinging and refusing to let go? Willow's eyes were red. She opened her mouth as if to say something more, but I didn't look at her again. Supporting Anna, I walked back into the villa and shut the door with a loud bang, cutting off the outside completely. I pushed Anna away from me, my expression indifferent. Anna, who told you to make decisions on your own? My voice turned cold, like the first frost of early winter. Anna staggered half a step back from the push, her back lightly hitting the shoe cabinet in the entryway. She caught a faint scent lingering on her collar, the smell of alcohol from when I had thrown up on her last night. At the time, my head had been pounding, and my nails had unconsciously scraped across her chest, leaving a thin red mark on her skin. But I clearly remembered telling her to leave and not worry about me. Yet she had taken it upon herself to stay in the room I used to occupy, and had even gone out early to run into Willow. She said, "You drank too much yesterday." I was worried. "Anna, do you like me?" I rubbed my temples, cutting her off. The air seemed to freeze in that instant. Anna felt the tips of her ears suddenly burn, the heat quickly spreading across them. She instinctively wanted to touch her ears, but held herself back, her fingers curling and relaxing at her sides. "Yes, why?" There was no emotion on my face, my tone as casual as if I were asking about the weather. "You're very outstanding, even more than your mother described." I raised my eyes and looked straight into hers. "I don't have those kinds of feelings, Anna. From now on, don't bring personal emotions into work, otherwise, I'll have no choice but to transfer you away from my side." Watching the expectation in her eyes shatter piece by piece, I lost any desire to continue the conversation. I turned and walked upstairs into my room. Truthfully, I didn't quite understand what I felt about Anna. I couldn't find even the slightest trace of Alicia in her, yet being around her gave me an inexplicable sense of calm. If it was love, it didn't quite feel like it. So when I noticed her feelings, I chose to make it clear without hesitation. I couldn't offer any promises now, so I didn't want to hold anyone back. The phone on the table began to vibrate. I picked it up and saw several new messages from my friend. "Willow went to find you. Makoto is insane. He's at the entrance of Wong Group right now holding a banner, saying you stole his wife. Only he would treat a scumbag woman like a treasure. Can those two just stay together forever? I'm so disgusted. I'm going to gather evidence of how those two were messing around together back when you were still with her." Chapter 27. The online public opinion had originally been overwhelmingly filled with insults toward me, yet it completely reversed overnight. The evidence released by my friend was like a bomb, shattering the victim persona that Makoto had so carefully constructed. Chat records, surveillance footage, even hospital diagnosis reports. All the evidence showed that Makoto's so-called suicide attempts were nothing more than one meticulously staged act after another. The most damning piece was an audio recording from before Willow and I were about to get married, where Makoto was smugly bragging to his friend, "That idiot Willow, if I just pretend I'm going to jump off a building, she'll listen to anything I say. She even skipped marrying George at the ceremony because of me. So what if he's the official boyfriend? He's still no match for me." The wave of insults instantly changed direction, all pouring toward Makoto. When Willow received the news, she had just walked out of the airport. A call from her assistant interrupted her as she was about to pick up her luggage. "President, this is bad. Mr. Ito is live streaming on the rooftop of Wong Corporation, saying he's going to jump." On the rooftop of Wong Corporation, the wind howled. Makoto Ito stood at the edge, barefoot, wearing a thin white shirt, holding up his phone as he live streamed. His messy hair was blown wildly by the wind. Tear tracks crisscrossed his face, and his voice choked as he said, "I loved her so much. How could she treat me like this? We were childhood sweethearts." I was the one who came first. The number of viewers in the live stream surged wildly. Among the bullet comments, some expressed sympathy, but far more were mocking. "Here it comes again, the classic suicide act. How many floors are you planning to jump this time? Should we call an ambulance in advance? Just jump already. Don't waste everyone's time." When Willow rushed onto the rooftop, Makoto's eyes instantly lit up. He cried out toward the camera, "Willow is here. I knew she still cares about me." But Willow's expression was dreadful. She hadn't slept for 3 days. Bloodshot veins filled her eyes. Her dress hung wrinkled on her body, and her entire presence radiated a dark, oppressive aura. "Come down. What kind of tone is that? Did George tell you something?" Makoto's tears streamed down in large drops. "Why did you go looking for George? You clearly promised to marry me." The surrounding crowd began to stir, some people quietly trying to persuade him. "Mr. Ito, let's talk this out. Please come down first." "Makoto, have you had enough? Willow suddenly laughed. There was a hint of madness in that smile. Step by step, she walked toward the edge of the rooftop. Her voice wasn't loud, yet everyone heard it clearly. If you're going to jump, then hurry up. Stop putting on this act every single day. I've had enough of you. The air around them instantly froze. Makoto's expression stiffened on his face, and the hand holding the phone trembled uncontrollably. Why you? What did you say? I said. Willow suddenly raised her voice. Don't you love using suicide to threaten me? I'm here now, so jump. Makoto's whole body trembled. He suddenly smashed his phone to the ground and stood up, about to rush over and question her. But in the next second, his foot slipped. Ah! Amid a chorus of screams, his body rapidly tilted backward, his hands grasping futilely at the air. Willow's pupils shrank sharply. Instinctively, she rushed forward, trying to grab him, but only managed to touch his fingertips. Makoto. A dull thud echoed into everyone's ears. It was as if the world froze at that moment. Willow collapsed to her knees at the edge of the rooftop, staring at the crowd rapidly gathering below. All that remained in her ears was a sharp, piercing ringing. Chapter 28. In the hospital corridor, the glaring red light was on. Willow's mother slapped her hard across the face, her voice trembling as she said, "You shameless girl, that's Makoto. Makoto, who grew up with you since childhood. How could you say something like that to provoke him?" Willow didn't dodge. A trace of blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. Her eyes were empty as she muttered, "I didn't mean for him to die." Makoto's mother screamed sharply. "What's the use of saying that now?" She suddenly lunged forward, clawing and hitting Willow, her sharp nails leaving streak after streak across her body. "If anything happens to my son, I'll make you pay with your life." The surgical light went out. The doctor pushed the door open, his expression grave, letting out a faint sigh. "I'm sorry. We did everything we could. Please accept our condolences." With those words, everyone in the corridor fell into complete silence. Then came Makoto's mother's wail of grief. Willow's mother staggered back a step, while Willow suddenly began to laugh. The laughter grew louder and louder, until it turned into hysterical, almost maniacal laughter. "Karma. This is all karma. We were all wrong from the very beginning." She swayed as she stood up, and under everyone's horrified gaze, walked toward the hospital rooftop. The wind lifted the hem of her clothes. Her phone screen was lit. It displayed a photo I had once forced her to take with me. When I received the news of Makoto and Willow's deaths, I was just finishing signing the last document. On the other end of the phone was a friend, sighing with emotion. I didn't expect Makoto would really jump that time before. He was just putting on an act, and Willow actually jumped after him. Who knows if it was because of true love or guilt? The dead are gone. Let's not bring up the past anymore. I rubbed my brow, my gaze falling out the window, my expression unreadable as I said, "It's all in the past." Because of the previous misunderstanding, the Wong Corporation unexpectedly gained a wave of guilt-driven supporters online. Even its domestic stock price rose quite a bit. I had originally planned to completely relocate Wong Corporation to Ireland, but I hesitated. In the end, I decided to return to the country, reorganize the domestic branch, and then go back to Ireland. I didn't inform anyone, nor did I plan to meet any old friends. I hurried to the company, arranged everything properly, and once again came to the cemetery. The large bouquet of bellflowers I had personally wrapped was placed in front of Alicia's grave. On the tombstone, the girl's photo still held the same gentle smile, as if quietly gazing at the person she had loved all her life. "Alicia, after I leave this time, I really won't come back again." All those years, I kept wondering, why wasn't it me who died? Why did I have to bear all of this? I desperately searched for people who resembled you, but I think I was wrong. I should have known from the beginning. You are irreplaceable. Uncle and aunt never blamed me, but I never had the courage to go see them. This time is no different. I only dared to leave the farewell gift at your doorstep. I raised my hand and carefully wiped away the dust that had settled on the photo. 7 years, I had finally learned to let go of Alicia, and also of the stubborn, deluded version of myself from the past. I said, "Alicia, goodbye. This time, I'm really going to start a new life."